Well, YouTube, I have returned, as it was written, that upon thine great ape's return, so shall I. Here I am, the Prophet of Kong, here to make a new video discussing this beautiful game. A game that, dare I say, I never lost faith in this game coming out. The rumors claimed that the Odyssey team were working on a Donkey Kong game, and everybody thought that was too crazy. Except for old Joe. Crazy old Joe who wouldn't shut up about his monkey game. Well, here we are, and it's certainly exciting, that's for sure. Now, there is a ton of stuff to go over from the footage that we've gotten between the trailer and, of course, the Nintendo Treehouse stuff, and I'm going to try my best to pore over it and do as in-depth of an analysis as I possibly can. We're going in deep, ladies and gentlemen, real deep. So put on your mining hat and your overalls, and let's dig in. And let's start off with the title of this game, Donkey Kong Bananza. Interesting name for a Donkey Kong game, wouldn't you say? Well, why don't we look up the meaning of the word Bananza? According to the dictionary, the meaning of the word bonanza is as follows: a situation or event that creates a sudden increase in wealth, good fortune, or profits. The word was also used in mining to refer to an exceptionally large and rich mineral deposit. And I would say that all of that sounds quite accurate, considering the fact that we open up to a bunch of monkeys mining, and Donkey Kong punching through a rock wall and digging all over the place. It's quite clear out the gate that this game has a lot to do with digging. And this certainly isn't strange territory when it comes to the Donkey Kong series. There's been mines and mining in just about every game in the series, going all the way back to Donkey Kong Country. Sure, a Donkey Kong game centered around it is definitely different, but it's not as out there as some people may think. Of course, before we get into all that, we gotta talk about the big elephant in the room. Big Boy got a little bit of cosmetic surgery in the past 11 years. Looks like he finally got those retractable teeth fixed, at least. This probably has to be one of the most controversial things with this game, is the fact that DK got a redesign. Of course, we kind of already knew about this from the Switch 2 trailer that came out a few months ago, where they showed Mario Kart, and we saw all those blurry images of Donkey Kong in the back, and clearly he looked different. There are many opinions on the internet about this redesign, ranging from terrible to phenomenal. Probably the most popular and the biggest criticism is that people say they're turning him into the Illumination Donkey Kong from the Mario movie. Here's the thing, I don't think they're turning Donkey Kong into Seth Rogen. I don't believe that that was the intent. When they did that direct for the movie a long time ago, dude, Miyamoto was so goddamn proud of the Donkey Kong redesign. Clearly they had this redesign in mind for a while, and the Illumination film basically just took the design that they had already drawn up for Donkey Kong and just applied it to the movie. It's certainly not the other way around, and I can't say that I'm surprised about this. Rare's been out of the picture now for a long time, over 25 years. And I'm actually surprised that Nintendo stuck with the Rare design for as long as they did. To be fair though, I don't think Donkey Kong looks as drastically different as a lot of people are saying. He still has all the main core elements of the Rare design. He's got the little Dairy Queen haircut, he's got that big old unibrow, and of course he still has his tie. So he still, to me, looks like Rare Donkey Kong, and that still makes up the core of his design. However, they just changed him up a little bit to make him look kind of like how he did originally in the old arcade games. They made his eyes more oval than round, put them closer together, made his little eyebrow a little thinner, and they made his nostrils a little bit more pronounced and gave him that little line right down the middle of his face there on his muzzle. And boom, you got yourself a new Donkey Kong. After seeing all the footage of Donkey Kong running around and doing things, I'll definitely say that he absolutely looks more expressive, he can make more faces and stuff, and I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I'm generally fine with this change. And this is coming from someone who loves the Rare designs, okay? Don't get me wrong. I grew up on Rare Donkey Kong. To me, it is the quintessential Kong. However, I don't hate this new design. It sort of embraces both the 80s and the 90s and brings it together, and I'm totally cool with that. Now let's talk about the gameplay. Now we've already established that this game is clearly made by the Odyssey team. It looks like Mario Odyssey, and that's perfectly fine. As I said, there were rumors that the Odyssey team were working on a Donkey Kong project for a while, and now we finally get to see it. I mean, yeah, like DK's running around, he's rolling, jumping, climbing, doing all the great things that he can do, but in 3D. Can't deny how great that is. The last time the guy had a 3D platformer was Donkey Kong 64 all the way back in 1999. And very much like Donkey Kong 64, this game is clearly a collectathon. Again, like Mario Odyssey before it. However, the gimmick, as we've already established, is that you can dig in this game. Apparently, the environments are fully destructible. Apparently, you can just go full-on Incredible Hulk and just destroy the whole map if you want. And these elements, of course, have been wrapped into Donkey Kong's moveset. He can pick up big rocks or big chunks of earth and throw them at enemies. He can spin it around and use it as a weapon. He can surf on it. He can do all kinds of stuff. And you're basically going to be doing all this bashing, smashing, and digging to attain your primary goal of collecting golden bananas. Seemingly taking a similar role as the moons in Mario Odyssey, these golden bananas appear to be the main thing that DK's trying to get a hold of. There are certainly other collectibles as well. It seems like you're collecting gold. There appears to be fossils in this game that you can collect, and we'll talk more about them a little bit later. And I've also noticed something that appears to be some kind of coins. I don't know if that's the case or not, but it looks like it. So there's definitely going to be a decent amount of stuff to get your hands on in Bananza. And very much like previous Donkey Kong games before it, and again, Odyssey, it looks like there's going to be like bonus rooms and things that you can do, different kinds of puzzles and stuff to get more collectible, which is totally cool and very on brand for the franchise. Unlike Odyssey, where you get on a little hat boat and fly around the world, in this game you appear to be digging down deeper and deeper and deeper underground, with each level being some new area to explore. And this is probably a good time to segue into the environments and the overall aesthetic of the world. Obviously, the aesthetics for Bananza are going to match a certain other game that I've already mentioned multiple times, starring Mario, which again, is perfectly fine. I loved Odyssey, and I loved its level design. There were already some areas of Odyssey that reminded me of Donkey Kong anyway, so I'm actually excited to see it applied to literally the Kong himself. But going beyond that, right off the bat in the initial trailer, we got to see a variety of different areas that definitely feel at home in a Donkey Kong game. We saw a little bit of forest, a little bit of snowlands, a little bit of a savanna or badlands. However, upon closer inspection, you can see lots of cool little details start to show through. This was especially apparent in the demo version that the treehouse was showing, wherein what I'm assuming is like a starting area, the lagoon, is covered in all sorts of hills and caves that look like monkey faces. First thing that comes to mind for me at least is that big old DK dome that used to be on Rare's Donkey Kong Island. And I'm really sure that that was a lot of the inspiration for the direction that they went in with this, which is just stellar. I know that this game doesn't take place on DK Isle, but man, I really hope that sort of like in Odyssey when we get to go to Peach's Castle in the Mushroom Kingdom, I hope we get a chance to go to DK Isle, and man, I hope they put that big old sweet Donkey Kong dome right back where it belongs, because that's something that actually really did bother me with the retro games. I hated the fact that they made the island so generic. The DK head in the middle was always so iconic to me and really made the island feel like it was supposed to be the home of the Kongs. But anyway, we can see this design philosophy carrying over to other regions as well. The forest has these cool looking ostrich branches all over the place. It would appear that the savanna has like giraffe heads going on. There's an ice stage that apparently has like zebra heads in it, so it seems like each region is modeled after like a specific animal. And as it would appear in the trailer, it seems that some of these areas have villages where the accompanying animal that is themed after that region is located. The most obvious one being the ostrich area, where later on in the trailer, after we see the initial forest, we can see a village of ostriches, or what appears to be a village of ostriches anyway, hanging out in the middle of that forest. It's also worth noting that in another clip, it looks like Donkey Kong's moving through a village of like little rock people that are shaped like giraffes. So maybe not all of its animals, maybe some of it might be these little mineral people that live down underground, but either way, there seems to be friendly areas where DK can stop in these regions, and I'm assuming, very much like Mario Odyssey, you're going to be able to buy certain things, maybe cosmetics, like maybe clothes or costume pieces, maybe some kind of power-ups or something like that, extra lives, things of that nature. I'm also interested to hear whatever wild lore they got going on for how there's like a forest full of ostriches underground. Or any of this stuff? Is it like a center of the earth deal where there's like a whole world under the ground or something? I don't know, but I'm really, really curious to see. Also, something that I forgot to mention earlier is that there are 2D sections which appear to be based in like the old jungle hijinks stages from the original Donkey Kong Country, and they appear to be played in a 2D perspective, which I forgot to mention earlier with the gameplay stuff, but maybe that means we will be going back to DK Isle, or maybe it's the jungles surrounding this island. Either way, that's really cool too. And even that short snippet of that jungle stage looks absolutely stunning. They managed to capture the aesthetic of the original Donkey Kong Country perfectly, and translate it into 3D into this game. It's like chef's kiss, dude. It's phenomenal. And that brings us to another bullet point that I wanted to bring up in this video. A big criticism that's been thrown at this game is the fact that a lot of elements that were created by Rare for Donkey Kong Country have been removed from Bananza. Like Nintendo's trying to rewrite history and get rid of all the things that Rare did so they can completely distance themselves from it. And I'm sorry, but I say this as a full-blown Rare Donkey Kong fanboy, that could not be further from the truth. When you really sit back and analyze all of the things that have been shown in the very limited amount of footage that we've gotten from Bananza, I think you'll find that there's plenty of Rare influence still very much present. Obviously, this criticism is led by the fact that Donkey Kong's design has been changed, which, once again, the core of Rare's DK is still there, so I don't really agree with that one. But there are plenty of other things that are just blatantly obvious that they were taken straight from or inspired by the country games that came before this. The first big thing right off the bat is that DK is the only Kong that's in this game, as far as we can tell. There's no Diddy, there's no Dixie, no Funky. However, as we learned during the Treehouse playthroughs, Cranky Kong is here. He is in the game. And not only is Cranky here, but he mentions DK Isle. He calls DK the leader of the bunch, which is blatantly taken from the DK rap, as well as also heavily hinting to the fact that the DK crew is all very much still around in this world. But he also name drops Rambi, so we know that Rambi, the animal buddy, will be present in this game. Yet again, another Rare invented character. Golden bananas are taken straight from Donkey Kong 64. In fact, when you collect a golden banana in this game, a voice clip pops in that even says, "Ooh, banana," just like it did in DK64. Obviously, it goes without saying that we're going to have plenty of minecarts and all that sort of stuff, again, introduced during the Rare games. The aforementioned village of ostriches seems like a random animal, right? Well, not when you consider the fact that Espresso was in the original Donkey Kong Country and was an animal buddy. One of those ostriches could more than likely be her. Again, another Rare element. Also, may I add, Espresso hasn't been in a game since the original Donkey Kong Country in 1994. So if she is in Bananza, this would be her first appearance in a Donkey Kong game since then. That is absolutely insane. There is one thing, though, that I think is the ultimate nod to Rare and all of their 3D platformers. When the Bananza trailer first started up at the end of the Direct, when they're just showing you the landscapes and things like that, you can see the little, some of the little geode guys with their googly eyes. And I cannot be alone in the fact that at first I thought I was looking at Banjo 3. Like, I thought I was looking at a new Banjo-Kazooie game, because that was one of the main things Rare would always do in their 3D platformers. Take something and slap some googly eyes on that bitch. And that's what I thought was going on here. I mean, it turns out they're these little geode people or whatever, but still, all these little googly eyeballs on all these enemies and things is so absolutely 100% Rare. Of course, the other big criticism as to why people say that they're going away from the Rare games is because of the villains. Honestly, when the evil monkeys flashed on the screen, I started having PTSD flashbacks to Donkey Kong Jungle Beat and the evil Kongs. Once again, a Donkey Kong game in the hands of the Mario developers ends up deciding to use evil monkeys instead of using the Kremlings, much to my disappointment. However, upon watching these trailers and watching this game footage, you may start to pick up on the fact that there is an odd amount of crocodilian stuff present in Bananza. In the initial trailer, we get some looks at some enemies that are definitely crocodile themed. There's these stone head guys running around that are obviously crocodile heads, and then of course, there's a shot that we get, a real quick one, of a boss that looks like he's made out of multiple crocodile heads. The very top head, by the way, appearing to have what looks like a golden crown on top of its head. And if you close up real good and look at the design on the stone of these crocodile heads, you'll notice a very familiar pattern. It actually looks a lot like the pattern that's the lining of K. Rool's cape. Very interesting, eh? And of course, when you smash these stone crocodile enemies, out pops a golden crocodile bipedal skeleton. Which, I mean, bipedal crocodiles? What could that possibly be? Oh, a Kremling, I think. Oh yeah, there's Kremling skeletons in this game. And whether King K. Rool appears in it or not, it doesn't change the fact that there are clear and blatant references to the Kremlings in Bananza. Now, it's entirely possible that they're all just fossils. Maybe there's like a meta joke going on where everything that was in the old country games is fossilized and old, maybe. I had mentioned earlier the fossils that you can collect. One of the fossils Donkey Kong picks up during the trailer is actually a naughty, the little beaver guys from Donkey Kong Country 1. So again, more references to country. Also a theme of old stuff from country being fossilized. So like I said, I think there's some kind of meta joke going on in this game where all the old rare stuff or the old country stuff might be dead and gone or something like that. And that's entirely possible, at least when it comes to enemies and such. Another enemy that popped up in the treehouse gameplay are these little buzzer guys, which are like bees. Obviously a reference to the zingers from the original country games. Again, another rare reference. I don't think I have to prove my point anymore that there's plenty of rare stuff going on in here or rare influence things, and they're not trying to erase anything when it comes to Donkey Kong. And I really can't wait to see what other Easter eggs and references they put in here, maybe other characters that show up. The more I see about Bananza, the more curious I am as to what the hell is going on in this game, and what kind of deep lore they got going on, connecting it to the other Donkey Kong games. Clearly, this game is respecting the canon that has been set up previous, and it just makes me want to play it all the more. The last thing I'm going to be talking about in this video is going to be a lot of speculation on the story and possible characters that could end up showing up at some point. Like I said, this is going to be speculation, so a lot of it's going to be my opinion. I could be totally wrong, but I'm going to try my damnedest to collect as much evidence or speculative evidence to form a possible story, or at the very least, story elements that could be going on over the course of Bananza. Let's start with the stuff that we know. Why is DK here? Why is he mining? What is going on? Apparently, DK discovered something called bananium. It's like some mineral or whatever. Clearly, it's edible, and it may even have some kind of magical properties. Who knows? It's definitely been a thing in past games that creatures connected to bananas and bananas themselves have some kind of magical properties. So having some kind of banana mineral that's connected through some kind of magic is definitely not out of Donkey Kong's wheelhouse. Either way, DK and the little monkeys that we see mining at the beginning of the trailer are actually working together to mine the bananium. So he's working with them, and that is why in the trailer he appears with this mining outfit on. Apparently at some point while they're mining all of this stuff, these evil monkeys show up and they're called Voidco. And you cannot tell me that the head monkey of Voidco doesn't look exactly like Stripe from Gremlins 2. Dude, he looks just like him. Anyway, as far as we can tell, these evil monkeys show up from Voidco and they sink the entire mining town that Donkey Kong and all of his little monkey buddies have under the ground and steal all the bananas, I guess. It says that on the website too, that they steal the bananas during the chaos. And, you know, there's definitely a lot of holes with this whole narrative. I don't feel like it's completely cohesive, and I'll have my reasons for that as we go on with this. But that's the long and short of the very small snippets that we know of the story. Then Donkey Kong comes across this little rock guy that he meets called Odd Rock, who he has to sing to calm down for some reason. And Odd Rock clearly doesn't like monkeys, and he's got Voidco wrappings all over him, so more than likely he has something to do with them, and he doesn't like them, and that's why he doesn't like monkeys. Now, the singing thing, I'm not going to get into it because it is a spoiler, in case you don't want to get spoiled. However, if you do, it's not hard to find the information, but it's been discovered recently that Odd Rock could be a completely different character, and it's definitely wild. You would have to look it up yourself, but let's just say that the singing would make sense with Odd Rock when you find out the character that it is apparently connected to. But anyway, we're assuming that this guy kind of serves as your cappy, and he's like your little partner that joins you through the game as you go on your adventure. So here are the main questions. 1, what's up with Odd Rock? Which, again, there could be a spoiler for that, so you could look it up if you want to. 2, what's going on with these monkeys? What's going on with Voidco? What do they want? I mean, this is literally a question that's on the website. What does Voidco want? They're mysterious. Clearly, they want the bananium. So, what do they want it for? Well, like I said, this is when we're going to get into speculation territory. One thing that's noticeable right away is that as soon as Voidco shows up, you have all these weird Voidco button-looking things. They're like locks, basically, that like clamp down on tunnels that go deeper into the earth. And my guess is that they're there to stop you from going down deeper. You have to beat enemies and get keys from those enemies in order to destroy the lock and get into the next area. Now, interestingly enough, at least the first Voidco lock that we see in the lagoon area during the Nintendo Treehouse playthrough, it's protected by one of those crocodile enemies, and they're called crocoids. Everything that is involved with Voidco has oid in the name, so you have buzzoids, crocoids, things of that nature. And it seems like a lot of their minions are like made out of different types of rocks and minerals, which makes sense. Another thing that stands out with the name crocoids is that there's a random K in the name. This is something that I think is notable because normally when it comes to the Kremlings and King K. Rool, there's always Ks, random Ks like thrown into their names or something that has to do with them. And crocoid, I mean, croc is C-R-O-C. It doesn't need a K in there at all in order to get the point that it's a crocoid, but they threw one in there, which, I mean, it may not be the strongest evidence for King K. Rool or Kremlings, but I honestly feel like that was done blatantly on purpose to kind of give you the hint that this is related to Kremlings in some way, shape, or form. But anyway, it seems like these crocoids are protecting the Voidco stuff, and that's pretty interesting to me, because why would these monkeys for Voidco be using clearly crocodile enemies to protect their lock and key areas? And this definitely doesn't seem to be a one-off thing. One of the first missions in the demo was your first crocoid, so it's implying that there are obviously more than a few of these things, and it would seem that crocoids are kind of a relatively common enemy in the game. In the trailer, if you really look, you can see what appears to be different areas that Donkey Kong is in, and these things appear in these different areas. So it's not like they're just stuck to one zone and you go beyond that and they're nowhere else. These are their general enemies. Like, these crocoids are relatively common, it would seem. And that would make sense when you see that one shot of the villains from the trailer where they're all lined up in that weird comet explosion thing or whatever. And you can see a ton of those crocodile heads there. So these are relatively normal foot soldiers for Voidco. And it would seem that every single one of them are housing a skeleton inside that is a Kremling skeleton. So the question is, why? Like, why do they have Kremling skeletons working for them? Why are they protecting their keys? What's going on? Obviously, the easy answer, and you probably already see where I'm going with this, is that King K. Rool is somehow involved with Voidco. He's using them in some way, or like he's the big boss or something like that, and that these monkeys serve as sort of like the broodlings from Odyssey, which I think there's a decent chance for that to be a case. For one, it wouldn't be the first time that K. Rool's used evil monkeys against the Kongs. You remember in Donkey Kong Country 1, there were the Mankey Kongs, which were turncoats basically who were siding with the Kremlings and trying to destroy the Kongs. This would definitely fit with all the references that they're making to the original country, so, I mean, hell, even one of the evil Kongs looks like one of the Mankey Kongs from that game, so that's definitely a possibility. Plus, it's not out of K. Rool's character to hide behind some company and pretend that it's not him. Think back to Donkey Kong Country 3 in the Northern Hemisphere, we were believed that the Kremlings were under new rulership of something called Chaos, which, as it turns out, just happened to be King K. Rool. There's also some very interesting dialogue with Cranky Kong that, in my opinion, hints towards King K. Rool being involved in some way. It also sheds some light on the possible timeline of events that happened up to this point in DK's adventure. As I had already mentioned earlier, Donkey Kong showed up with these monkeys and they started to mine the Bananium. The dialogue with Cranky pretty much reveals that during this period of time, somebody came and stole the bananas from, I'm assuming, DK Isle. Because in a nutshell, Cranky says to Donkey Kong that, you know, the head honcho was derelict of duty, meaning Donkey Kong wasn't at his post. He wasn't protecting the bananas like he's supposed to, and that would be true if he was here digging up this stuff instead of being on DK Isle. Cranky also mentions the fact that the banana theft occurred while Donkey Kong was down in the mines. Then Cranky goes off on this whole thing about how when he heard there was a banana bandit on the loose, he knew who to blame, but he had to suss out where he was hiding. And those are pretty much almost verbatim what he says. Notice that Cranky says he instead of they. As so far, Voidco has been introduced to us as a group. Yes, there is a lead monkey, but every time we've seen them so far, there's 3 of them, as far as we can tell. And also, there's Voidco plastered all over everything. Not this monkey's name, it's the company name. So in my opinion, if he was referring to Voidco, Cranky would be referring to them as they or them, and not he. Also, when Cranky says suss out where he was hiding, I kind of take that as sort of like, again, a very meta reference to the fact that K. Rool hasn't been in a game for like 20 years now. So yeah, he would be in hiding, right? So then Cranky had to pretty much get on Rambi and come to this island to get Donkey Kong to try to get the bananas back. That's at least what it seems like through this dialogue. Now, I don't think this dialogue is complete, and also there are things that we don't know. I'm sure there's cutscenes and things that lead into the game that Cranky will be referring to things, so we don't know. And it is entirely possible that Cranky is referring to the boss monkey of Voidco or whatever. But the thing is this dialogue makes it seem like A, there's familiarity there, and B, he makes it sound like it's a single entity and not an entire group. Or that this single entity is like in charge of the whole group and he's blaming everything on that one singular person. Also in the dialogue, he refers to this character, whoever he's talking about, as a crook and wonders how he commands any kind of respect. And again, says it as a single entity, not as a company. So I really do think that he is referring to a character that he's familiar with, that they have a history with. Oh, and the other thing is that he refers to this character as a rival to Donkey Kong, which, I mean, what other character would be considered a rival to Donkey Kong other than King K. Rool, the guy he's been battling for years now? Like I said, this is all just pure speculation, and a lot of it is obviously me speculating here. And yeah, I'm a big fan of King K. Rool. I'm going to speculate that he's in the game. I'm sure there's a bunch of people out there who are going to say I'm coping and all this kind of shit, but let me tell you something. Like I said before, there is, at the very least, Kremling references in this game. Absolutely, 100%. You're not going to sway my opinion that they're not, okay? They're bipedal crocodile skeletons. Those are Kremling. There's no way around that. We live in a post-Super Smash Bros. Ballot world. King K. Rool got put into Smash 2018. He was a big deal. He literally got in because of the Smash ballot. I mean, they basically said that. Nintendo knows that the fans like this character. They know that he has a sizable portion of fans that want to see him make a return to the series. I don't think that they would be using any kind of crocodile anything without knowing that people are going to expect him to show up. I just don't see Nintendo half-assing this. They're either going to go all in if they're using crocodile stuff and they're going to have K. Rool in it in some way, shape, or form, or they're going to avoid anything that has to do with crocodiles or Kremlings and not have anything in the game like they did with the retro games. So yeah, I think he'll be a big part of the story, and I do think that eventually we are going to see like Funky and Diddy and Dixie, because notice that there's like a bunch of shops and stuff, and I can honestly see those Kongs taking on the roles of like shop owners. I mean, Funky's already done that, so that's not a big thing for him. Diddy and Dixie, I mean, who knows? Maybe there could be something else with them in the game. Maybe there's some sort of other playable Kongs. Maybe, we don't know. I mean, we still haven't seen a lot. But I'm sure that they will show up. I mean, these helper monkeys in the game literally look almost exactly like Diddy. So there's just no way that they're going to leave them out. I think Bananza is going to be a celebration of the entire series. That's what I think. It's going to be very similar to Odyssey. Again, Odyssey was a celebration of the Mario series. It made references to a ton of different games. You know, Nintendo's been seeming to do this a lot lately. Kind of like what Breath of the Wild did with Zelda. You had a ton of Easter eggs and references to other Zelda games from the past. They brought back old enemies that hadn't been in the games for a while. This is how I see them approaching Bananza. I think it's going to be the same thing for Donkey Kong. We're going to get lots of cool references to the old games, which obviously we've already seen quite a bit as it is, but I'm sure a ton of characters are going to show up. I think this game is really going to connect to the older ones and make everything like cohesive and bring everything about into the modern day. I think it's going to be really cool, and I'm just super excited for it. Again, regardless of King K. Rool, whether he appears in this or not, it's not going to ruin it for me. I'm satisfied enough as it is to what it seems like what they're doing with the Kremlings, you know, as so far, that I'm fine with it. But I just personally don't think he's not going to be in there in some way. But regardless, either way, Bananza looks like an awesome game, and I'm super hyped for it. And I hope that you guys are just as excited for Bananza as I am. Do me a favor, let me know down in the comments below. You tell me what you're hype about. Are you excited about Bananza? Do you not care about it? You know, do you think I'm crazy and, you know, all conspiracied out about King K. Rool showing up in the game? You know, let me know down in the comments. Berate me. Tell me how much you hate all my opinions on this. I don't care. Let me know. If you like the video, give it a like. If you don't like the video, give it a dislike. Either way, I appreciate you watching. If you're new here, welcome. I make videos sometimes. And if you're coming back, welcome back. Here I am. It's been a long one. Long hiatus. Almost a year. Not quite. Almost, though. I'm glad I took a little bit of a longer hiatus between videos because it gave me a lot of time to think about my channel, what I want to do, how I want to approach things moving forward. And I have a lot of plans for my YouTube channel. I hope to be on here a little bit more. No promises, obviously. I'm a busy person, but I would like to. I have a lot of big plans for my channel. I am working on a lot of things behind the scenes. Even when I was not uploading, I was still planning things out, working on stuff. So hopefully all my plans, you know, come to fruition. That would be nice. This is probably one of the longest videos I've done in a long time, but it's about Donkey Kong, and I love Donkey Kong, so there's no way I'm not going to do that. But anyway, I'm going on for a long time, so I'm going to try to keep this real short. I do have a Discord chat. If you want to join it, feel free. There's going to be a link down in the description. Especially now, there's probably going to be a lot of chatter going on about Bananza, and I'm going to want to talk about it as the months go on and we get more information or whatever, and when the game finally drops. It's going to be a subject that we're going to talk about, so if you want to join, you want to talk about that, or anything Switch related, or anything video game related, come on in, feel free. Before I go, from the bottom of my heart, I really do want to thank every single one of my subs. You guys are the most patient people I know. I mean, thank you so much for hanging around for me to start uploading again and do stuff. I really do appreciate it. You guys are fantastic. You're phenomenal. But I've gone on long enough. I've already wasted enough of your time. I'm going to go now, okay? But I promise I will be back. I will be back, I swear. I'll see you in the next one.